Hello. It's lovely to be here with you today, and I'm delighted to be able to share my passion of intergenerational interactions with you, something that I hope you'll feel as passionate about when I finish the presentation. My name is Judith Ish-Horowicz, and I'm talking about bringing the old and young together. So many of the sessions I've heard today have talked about the influence of their family on them, their mothers, their grandparents, their children, and I'm no different. I think that my belief in the value of education has come from my parents and from my grandparents, so I'd like to introduce them to you. On the left at the top is my grandmother, my father's mother. Her name is Esther, and I'm named after her. It's my second name. Next to her is my grandfather, my father's father, Shmuel Gedalia. They were traditionally Orthodox Polish Jews. In fact, all my grandparents were born in Poland. But my mother's parents moved to Jerusalem in 1925 when my mother was only 5 years old. My mother's name was Malka, Queen. I love the name Malka. Queenie doesn't have quite the same ring. She died when my mother was only 15 years old. My grandfather, her father's name is Tanchum. That means compassion. I hope that they would have been proud of me and the compassionate values that I feel underlie the project that I, with the help of my co-founder Ali Summers, who is here today, and the help of so many people, have managed to bring about. It's not many people, I think, who can actually say that their dream has become a reality, and I'm one of those lucky ones. I never met my grandparents. My grandmother on my mother's side, as I said, died when my mother was young. And my grandfather died before he could be introduced to me when I was born in Manchester. But they were the lucky ones. My father's parents had remained in Poland, and during the war they were deported to Auschwitz, and they didn't survive. I often wonder what it would have been like to have had grandparents support me, and I'm always amazed about my mother, how she coped without that extended family support. That's me. I'm quite cute, aren't I? I'm on my mother's lap. My mother was living in Manchester. She had 5 children. She had nobody to say to her, "You're doing a good job." No one to say to her, "Can I help? You need to sleep. You must be exhausted." To teach her how to cook. She thought she knew English. She'd studied Shakespeare and grammar and passed her baccalaureate. She said when she came to Manchester, she couldn't understand a word. And this is maybe my favorite picture. 4 generations. Myself, my mother, who passed away last summer, one of my daughters, Joanna, and my granddaughter, Sasha. I know I don't look old enough, but there you are. I wonder how my mother... I wanted to share with you what one of my daughters said, Shoshi. I have 4 daughters. When my mother passed away at the prayers, she said what she was going to miss most from her savta, her grandma, going, was that unconditional, uncritical love that she had had from someone who just knew she was perfect. I mean, I adore my children, but a little advice now or then doesn't come amiss. But I realized again that I had never had that kind of uncritical love. And I thought, this is something that I so want everybody to have. Here, you can see my daughter Sasha again. This is with her new friend, Faye. Sasha's become quite a media star because there's been a lot of interest in our new nursery. Watching my children with their grandparents showed me just how important those intergenerational relationships are. And let me tell you how the whole project started. So, over 20 years ago, I opened a nursery in South London. It was the only Jewish nursery in South London, actually, called Apples and Honey Nursery. And I noticed that a lot of the families didn't have a lot of the children didn't have extended families. They didn't have grandparents or great-grandparents because many of them were international families, many of them were from families that had had to move because of work. And I thought that here I wanted to give the children in my nursery a holistic, all-consuming education, covering all areas, and those intergenerational connections and meetings were really important. So I looked for a care home where we could actually meet up and build up those relationships. Now, Nightingale House is the only Jewish care home in South London, so it was an obvious match, a match made in heaven, you could say. And we started to meet every now and then. As I watched the relationships and I could see the interactions, I thought, why are we coming so rarely? And we met more frequently until I had a light bulb moment. Why didn't we have a nursery in the site? I spoke to my friend, a parent at the nursery, Dr. Summers, Ali, and I didn't even need to finish the sentence. When I started asking her if she'd help me, she immediately said yes. And so the two of us went to the trustees at Nightingale House, and they said that they would be delighted to welcome us. They welcomed us with open arms. Nightingale Hammerson is a charity that oversees Nightingale House. I could see the interactions. I could see the relationships. Nightingale House has 180 residents. The average age of entry is 90. The majority of the residents are women, a bit like Faye. They come of that generation who, when they were looking for their life partners, people that they would marry, often couldn't find the kindred spirit because so many men had been killed in the war. And so many people didn't actually get married, didn't have children, didn't have the grandchildren, just like Faye here. It's a centre of excellence for dementia. It has the most amazing grounds. It is a hidden gem. Actually, I'll let Faye tell you what have been the results of our relationship.
Hello, Max. Nursery rhymes and crawling babies isn't what you'd expect in a care home for the elderly. But then this is no ordinary care home. It's unique, becoming the first in the UK to house a full-time nursery on site. 89-year-old Faye Garcia says having the children is the highlight of her day.
A lot of joy. It's given me a new life. It's so much fun. I don't have any children of my own. That's why I've adopted all these lovely little children. It's like, as I say, having a new family.
The children have been coming here once a week since January, in preparation for the new nursery which opened last week. And parents have seen a change in their children too.
I call him an investigator. He didn't do this much before, but now he just runs off, and you only see him when he needs something, basically. He goes to everyone, not worry about anything, and he just has fun until he's tired, really.
Grown in confidence then?
Absolutely, yes.
The UK is still catching up with this idea. Similar schemes already run in the US, Canada and Japan. And the hope is that this one will inspire others in the country.
Faye said to me, one of the lovely residents, that she asked one of the children if she could go down that slide the other day, and the child said, "No, you're too old," and they both had a nice giggle. So it's changed all of our lives.
It is care that is enhancing the lives of both the old and the young. Sejal Karia, ITV News, South London.
So, what is co-location in practice? Well, you can see on the slide, on the right, there's a bungalow. That was the maintenance department of the home, and they very kindly relocated the maintenance department. They're underground now. They haven't said thank you to us. And the home helped us to develop it into a beautiful early years setting. We were hoping that we'd be able to have lots of our activities together in the actual space there, but it was great until we put the children and the equipment in, and then there really wasn't very much room for the wheelchairs and the Zimmer frames. So most of our activities are actually in the home, and the residents can actually hear the children walking up the path, Singing, we have a walking train they hold onto a little rope, and as they sing, the residents know that we're about to start yet another of our joint activities. The building on the left, that wall, that is the nursing dementia unit. The garden, their memory garden, overlooks our garden. There's a path all the way around. It was very important that we didn't detract in any way from the facilities. This is the residents' home. We have been invited in, and we wanted to make sure that what we gave only would enhance their experiences. Some of the residents are not particularly interested in children, so they don't have to join in. It's their choice. Everything you can opt into if you so wish, and opt out if you don't want. It's just the most amazing space. And this is our vision. We wanted to enhance the quality of life of all involved and to develop community. How many of you have visited a home or seen on TV or heard about people sitting in front of the TV and sitting and sitting and sitting? Here we were able to join in to create a much more varied program. The home itself has an activity centre. It has a pets corner. I have had my training on how to run petting sessions, animal petting sessions. All our staff have become wheelchair trained in order that we can actually bring residents to join in with the activities. It's got a fish pond, an aviary. It's the most beautiful site. We can help with gardening. In this way, we were able to actually combat loneliness, combat the depression, become part of the community. We could extend family relationships for everybody. That's for the children, for the residents, for their families, for the care staff and their families as well. Everybody it would become a whole community. Everyone would be working together. And we also wanted to open ourselves up to the local community, because then we'll have a baby and toddler group that people in the local community can come in and can take part in if they themselves are lonely. And many volunteers have come from the local community as well. We wanted to pioneer meaningful play between elderly and nursery-aged children. If you look at the early years goals that the government has offered us, all those goals are goals that would be for everybody. Physical development, we join the exercise class every week that is run by the senior physiotherapist. Sensory activities, we have sensory song sessions. We can go into the sense garden and use our senses for smelling. We have arts and crafts together. We do gardening together. We've had a few joint outings as well. We celebrate life cycle events together. We had a birthday party where a 98-year-old and a 2-year-old had their birthdays together, so we could be a whole century old. We wanted to work closely in partnership with the care providers to create a developmentally, physically and cognitively appropriate program for both. So I met, before we even opened, with the director of care, the director of activities, and the director of the therapist team, so that we could actually plan in advance. One of the things we did was we actually opened a baby and toddler group a year ago. Actually, it's going to be 1 year, just this month, so we could trial some of the activities, see if the tables are the right height. Lots of the children are very happy on the floor, but we had a little problem with residents down there. Just seeing what would work. One of my favourite activities that we have every week is the song session. The residents like to sit and they love to join in the activities, but often they just like to look at the movement. It makes them feel young. It reminds them how they would move when they were younger. And one of the children will take a bag filled with toys, soft toys and items, to a resident who can then take an item out, and we sing a song together around it. If the resident isn't quick enough, the child will take it and give it to them, but no one's ever complained. I just love those interactions and watching the faces. Many of the residents, you think that they're just being passive, but they're not. Looking at their eyes, you can see the interactions. We wanted to be good neighbours. We help each other. We listen well. The children often are from families where the parents are working long hours. They don't have time to listen to the children. The residents have all the time in the world, and they have got stories to tell. The children, watching them, seeing them mature, seeing their sensitivity has been an eye-opener. I feel it's equally as important for the children as it is for the residents. We wanted to give the residents a new sense of purpose and to give the children those extended family relationships. And we have seen those. A little boy last week actually sat and had lunch with one of our residents. They had a date. We support the care staff of the home. 20% of our places are reserved at highly subsidised rates for the care staff. It means that there's much improved retention and much improved quality of care, and we can attract very, very good staff. It really does make a big difference. And also, the staff themselves feel that they are being valued and that they have actually got a purpose in this whole process. They are part of our special relationship. And Apples and Honey Nightingale is a social enterprise. It is a not-for-profit, and that was also crucially important for us. And is it having an impact? Well, as you can see, I find watching the children play very stimulating. I can follow their thinking in their actions. Watching them problem solve and develop is very rewarding. I find it joyful and satisfying. John, who is 90, has never had children, but he's a regular at our groups. And here you can see 3 generations in the baby and toddler group. I talked about relationships outside. Bath to Babies came and offered a free workshop for us. We actually do so many things with the wider community, and without the wider community, we would not exist. It is through their support and the support of people like you that we're able to have this special nursery in the care home. Seeing the children and having them here has given me a reason to live, to keep going. I was very depressed before. I just wanted to die. Now that I see them here, I feel it encourages me to keep going, to keep trying. And it's not just the residents speaking for themselves. Here's one speaking for another. John, who you saw earlier, has said this. One gentleman who comes to the group never speaks to anyone else at all. When he's upstairs in the care home, he is silent. But when he comes down here, he lights up. He becomes himself. And it makes me very happy to watch this. This is a very special relationship. We have not just planned activities. There are always those butterfly moments. Unplanned. Sometimes residents will come on their own into the nursery space. They're very welcome, as long as we can squeeze them in. And here, little Evie came, and she bumped into another lady. They got talking. We didn't know they were chatting. And they discovered they had the same name. Now, Eve sent a little letter to Evie, and in it was a picture of herself when she was little, and it said, "This is from me to when I was little Evie, to from big Evie to you, the new little Evie." And then she gave Evie a present, and Evie here is opening the present and brought one back to her. And then they discovered they had the same surname. And here's a mother speaking for herself and for her 3-year-old. What a sheer delight. From the moment we walk in, we feel the vibrant, colourful and joyful atmosphere of a true community. And as we leave, my daughter excitedly says, "Fun, fun, fun." As I said at the beginning, my life is very much involved in education. We are involved in helping others to actually continue with our work, with developing other models of intergenerational interactions. We're doing research on site. Ali is in charge of that. We're trying to understand parent motivations in choosing a nursery within an elderly care residential setting. We're continuing and we're supporting other people with their research. We're hoping that we can help people to develop models all over the country. Not one size fits all, but our experiences we want to share. We would love this to happen elsewhere. There is a story, a midrash, a Jewish story, about a man, Honi HaMehagel, Honi the circle maker. He was walking along the road and he saw an old man planting a tree. And he looked at this man and he laughed at him. He said, "Look at you. You'll be dead before this tree provides any food." And he fell into a deep sleep. And when he woke up, 70 years later, he saw children playing and eating carob fruit and laughing. What we are planting is a seed and more seeds. We live in a very fractured society. I truly believe that these seeds can grow and can maybe help us heal the world and create the kind of world that we wish our children and our grandchildren to live in. Thank you.